Welcome to the channel. This is Halandzovskyi. If you appreciate clear analysis, real facts, and a sharp pro-Ukrainian perspective on global events, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and support the channel. Your engagement genuinely helps us stay visible and keep spreading the truth. Today, attention is on an increasingly tense story coming out of Washington. According to multiple U.S. media reports, the White House is considering major changes to asylum procedures, a shift that could reshape the country's migration landscape. The proposed reforms, still under discussion, are described as sweeping and structural, suggesting changes far beyond minor bureaucratic adjustments. While migration is often treated as a domestic issue, it carries significant geopolitical weight. The emerging tone from Washington indicates that the administration is preparing for a decisive and potentially controversial pivot. At the center of the discussions is one objective: significantly restricting who can claim asylum in the United States and accelerating the processing of cases that can be dismissed. Proposed measures include stricter initial screenings, faster deportation mechanisms, and a narrowing of categories that qualify for humanitarian protection. This represents a marked departure from the traditional U.S. approach to asylum, historically shaped by international law, Cold War dynamics, and America's self-image as a defender of democratic freedoms. The reforms are not simply about border control, they signal a potential reset of decades of policy and a redefinition of America's global role. Timing appears to be a factor. The United States is entering a period of political turbulence, with pressure from Republican-led states, voter anxiety over border security, and campaign narratives on migration all converging. In this context, the administration seems determined to demonstrate firmness, even if it risks criticism from human rights groups, international partners, and elements of its own political base. There are broader strategic considerations as well. In recent years, authoritarian states have used migration flows as a tool, from the Belarus-Poland border standoff to Russia's attempts to destabilize Europe through refugee manipulation. The US decision to tighten asylum procedures may reflect concerns about such hybrid threats, viewing stronger internal controls as a safeguard against both illegal entry and foreign exploitation of humanitarian channels. The potential global impact is also significant. Changes in US asylum rules often influence policies elsewhere. European countries may adopt stricter measures. Migration pressure could shift towards states less equipped to manage it, and authoritarian regimes may be emboldened to use displaced populations as leverage. Such reforms could reshape international migration patterns for years to come. The United States faces a delicate balance. It must maintain secure borders and a system resistant to exploitation, while also upholding moral and legal responsibilities, particularly as global instability increases, in part due to conflicts such as Russia's aggression in Ukraine. For Ukrainians, these developments carry immediate significance. Any shift in global asylum standards could affect how refugees fleeing Russian attacks are treated. More broadly, it signals how committed the US remains to international humanitarian principles, a commitment closely tied to Ukraine's struggle for sovereignty. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel Halandzovskyi, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Your activity keeps this community alive and growing. Attention is turning to the potential consequences of the White House's proposed overhaul of asylum procedures. At the heart of the issue lies a political paradox. The United States is both the world's strongest democracy and a primary target for geopolitical destabilization. Migration is no longer solely a humanitarian issue. It has become a battleground of narratives, identities, and interstate tension. The administration's proposed tightening of asylum rules is an attempt to regain control over that battlefield, but it carries significant risks. One particularly controversial element is the acceleration of credible fear screenings, the initial step that determines whether an individual can formally apply for asylum. Critics warn that speeding up this process could send legitimate refugees back into danger. Supporters argue that the current system is overwhelmed, susceptible to exploitation, and bogged down by prolonged legal delays. The tension highlights a deeper global crisis. The international asylum system is struggling to cope with widespread instability. Across the Middle East, Africa, and Eastern Europe, millions are fleeing war, persecution, and economic collapse. Russia's invasion of Ukraine alone has displaced over 10 million people, Western countries are reaching administrative and political limits, while extremist groups exploit migration pressures to polarize societies. The implications of US policy changes are likely to be far reaching. Increased pressure on Europe, stricter US asylum rules could push more migrants toward Europe's borders, heightening political tensions and empowering far right movements. Higher risk for refugees from conflict zones, those fleeing genuine threats, including Ukrainians escaping Russian attacks, could face fewer safe pathways if international standards are lowered. Opportunities for authoritarian manipulation, regimes such as Russia, Iran, or Belarus may interpret US restrictions as evidence of Western weakness, encouraging the use of migration as a geopolitical tool. Domestic polarization in the United States. Major changes are likely to intensify political debate, provoke legal challenges, and generate significant social backlash. From the administration's perspective, the pressures are tangible. The U.S. immigration system is under strain, with millions of unresolved cases, overwhelmed border communities, and states contesting responsibility. Political pressure to act is immense, making radical administrative changes both possible and, in some eyes, inevitable. The critical question is whether any reforms can balance security with humanity, sovereignty with responsibility, and domestic stability with global leadership. For Ukraine, the stakes are clear. A strong and principled United States can continue to support Kyiv in its struggle against Russian aggression. Conversely, internal political crises and policy turbulence could weaken American strategic engagement abroad. The United States stands at a crossroads, and the world is watching closely. Thank you for staying until the end. This is Denis Halandzovskyi. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share your thoughts. Your support keeps this channel strong and keeps the truth alive.